Hello, this is Mrs. McCullough again. We've been doing a lot of lessons on how readers retell and summarize. So let's just recap what we've learned so far in this series. Readers retell and summarize by determining the most important information and putting it in order. And that'll change up a little bit depending on if you're reading fiction stories in literature or if you're reading nonfiction like informational text where you're learning about new topics. If you're reading fiction, you're going to figure out what all the story elements are and you're going to retell it in order. And then we learned those 5 words, somebody wanted but so then, that you can use when you want to write a couple sentence summary, like a short paragraph. Well, with informational text, we learned that when it's a story that has a main idea or categorical text structure, then what we have to do is we have to put the information in groups. And that's where the dissected oval comes in really handy, because in each one of the sections that you're reading in the informational text, you can record the details that you're learning about that particular facet of the topic. And you can write those in words and phrases. Now, my dissected oval has 3 parts, but sometimes you only need 2. Sometimes you need 4 or 5, so you just draw a line and you add more parts. Then I showed you the other day how sometimes you have many different ovals and it all comes together on what we call a dissected web. And when we put our ovals together for our manatees passage, then we made our own dissected web for the 3 different sections. Then after we were finished with that, we wrote a summary. We wrote a summary where we took some of those details, not all of them, just the most important ones from our oval, and we wrote them into sentences. And see how it forms a paragraph? That is a summary. That's what we did in the last lesson. We actually made a paragraph type summary. So I'm going to add that to our anchor chart as a reminder that you can do a summary in literature, but you can also do a summary in nonfiction. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time actually doing all of that for nonfiction text, informational text, in one sitting. Because before we read about manatees and collected the details on one day, then we wrote about manatees from those details on another day. But a lot of times readers don't do that. They do it all in one sitting. And so I have a couple of passages that we're going to work on today. We'll read them together, we'll collect the details with the dissected oval, and then we'll turn it into a couple of sentences and make a paragraph summary. You ready? Okay, so here's how it's going to work. I have a couple different passages written by Liz Shockey. And so I'll read, and then I'm going to use the big ovals because I want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm writing down in the lesson. But if I were doing this all by myself without having to show it to other kids, I would actually start with one of these because I already know that these are going to have several different sections or categories in the articles. And so I would just fit them in the smaller pieces here. But because I'm doing this with a whole class, then I actually am going to do it in this way. Okay, so the first passage I have for us is all about windmills. And I was really interested about windmills because I've seen some windmills like the ones you see in this photograph here from an article about windmills that create electricity. I've seen them around our area where I live, but we're going to read about a different type of windmill. And so here is our passage. I'll be the reading voice and I'll read a section and then stop and pause and show you what my thinking voice is telling me might be the most important details that I need to write down. Modern windmills help to make electricity. People built windmills in Holland before anyone had even discovered electricity. The windmills in Holland have different purposes. Now, I'm going to bring out my thinking voice sign here because I have to determine what's the most important information from that section. And so it's talking about modern windmills like we have now that make electricity, but also that windmills didn't really come from Indiana or the United States. They come from Holland. So I think I want to collect those details. So I'm going to say modern windmills there, the modern windmills, then they're used for electricity. But they really weren't meant for those kinds of purposes. They actually came from Holland, and they had a lot of different purposes, not just one. And so as I'm thinking about this, I need to give this category a label. And so sometimes that's the hard part as you start to try to see, how are these connected? Well, I think it's now and then. Now is how we use the windmills right now. And in Holland, that's where they were invented or discovered, and that's how we use them back then. Okay. So I have my my dissected oval for that first part. Okay, so let's go into the next paragraph. Windmills were built to help with food production. They made the mills with sails that could catch the wind, a little like sailboat sails. If the windmill was moving, then it would make the gears move inside it move too. If grain were put in the mill, it could be chopped up for food. So as I'm looking at this, it's telling me one of the purposes already of how they used those windmills. So I'm going to grab a new oval and I'm going to start writing. Okay, so it was used for food production. Okay, so they had windmills with sails to catch the wind. All right. And then what? Let's see. It would make the gears inside move. Okay, and I'm going to the last sentence. If grain were put in the mill, it could be chopped for food. So grain chopped into food. And when I think about this category here, the paragraph in the first sentence, it says that it was for food production. So that's the label that I'm going to use up here at the top. Food production. Okay, so I collected a few details. So far, I'm using just the sections in my dissected oval. I don't need a lot of extra parts yet. Okay, so I'm going to the next paragraph. If an area of land was too wet or it always flooded, a windmill could help. The power of the wind moving the sails could be used to pump water away from a plot of land. This helps some land that couldn't be used to turn into land where people could live. Okay, so this type was used if it was too wet. Okay, so if land was too wet, always, I'm going to put or always flooded, then they used it. And let's see, the sails, I'm going to the next sentence. The power of the wind moving the sails could be used to pump water away. Okay, so it pumped water away. I think that's an important detail. And then it helped. How did it help? This helped some land that couldn't be used to turn into land where people could live. Well, that sounds pretty helpful because we need places to live. So I'm thinking it turned land into places where people could live. Okay, so now the category, the label here, this is all about how if an area of a land was too wet or it always flooded. So they use this to, I'm thinking, prevent flooding. Okay, so they used it to produce food in the last paragraph and to prevent flooding. Okay, All right, I'm almost done. We've got just one paragraph left. I'm going to grab another oval. And let's read that next piece. Mills could also be used to shred or mix or pound. I wonder what that is. The power of the windmill could tear up wood into tiny pieces. This allowed paper to be made. The Zandstreak windmill helped to make the paper that the Declaration of Independence was printed on. Oh, that's pretty cool. I've learned about the Declaration of Independence. So this oval, I'm going to put in some of those things that it did. So let's see, mills could be used to shred, mix, or pound. The power of the windmill could tear up wood into tiny pieces. Okay, so it tears up wood. Think about it. Wood is really big and solid into tiny pieces. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? This allowed paper to be made. So they make paper in the windmill? No, out of the pieces. Out of the pieces. Okay. And, a windmill helped make paper for Declaration of Independence. So a windmill made paper for, and I'm just going to abbreviate, Declaration of Independence. So I know what that means, okay? So that tears, it shreds, it mixes, it pounds. So this is where it I'm just going to put shreds, mixes, and pounds. That's going to be my label for this, okay? All right, so I'm done with the passage and I'm done collecting a few details. Now, last time we taped them all up. Oops. Last time we taped them all up and we made them actually form a web, but I don't have time for that right now because I want to get started with the writing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my dissected ovals and I'm going to decide what do I want to group together to summarize, to kind of just pull out what are the most important parts. And then I'm going to form some sentences and we'll write a summary together, okay? So let me move that and grab my marker. So when I look at this one, I think about how there's really only two details. Now we use the windmills for electricity, but back then in Holland, they had a lot of different purposes. So let's see, how can I say it? Today, we use windmills for electricity, but back then, they used windmills for different purposes in Holland. Okay, I think that sounds okay. That sounds like a good opening statement. Okay, so today we use windmills to produce electricity, but back then, windmills had a lot of different purposes in Holland. Period. Okay, so I've got one sentence from this oval where I collected a couple of details. I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, so now I'm to the food production, how this helps produce food. So I collected a couple different details. Let's see, they use the sails to catch the wind. It makes the gears inside move. I've always wondered how they really work. And then the grain can be chopped into food. So let's see. The sails catch the wind to move the gears and then chop the grain into food. I kind of like how that explains how it works. The sails catch the wind to move the gears inside and chop the grain into food. All right, all those details I put into one sentence. I'm summarizing. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so now prevent flooding. It's too wet. It always flooded. They pumped the water away. They turned the land into places where people could live. So how could I combine this together? Let's see. If the land was always flooded, they could pump water away with the windmill. Okay, so if the land was always flooded, the windmill pumped water away and turned the land into places where people could live. Well, let's try that. If the land was flooded, comma, the windmill could pump water away and turn land into places people could live. Wow, this is just seeming so easy once I collect all the details in the oval. Okay, so it shreds, it mixes, and it pounds. So the windmill tears up wood into tiny pieces, and sometimes those pieces can make paper. They even made the paper for the Declaration of Independence, if I wanted to put that in there. Okay, so windmills tear up wood into tiny pieces that then make paper. There you go. Okay, let's try that. Windmills tear up wood into tiny pieces that can then make paper. Period. Okay, so you see what we're doing so far? I read, I stopped, I thought about the most important information. I added some details in words and phrases in my oval for this category. And then from each category, I looked at those details and thought about how do I want to combine that into a sentence? And I'm summarizing it. When I put my sentences together, then I make a paragraph. That whole passage I turn into a short summary. Okay, so let's read it and see if it makes sense. Today we use, see why we need to go back to reread. Today we use windmills to produce electricity, but back then windmills have a lot of different purposes in Holland. I think I need my oopsie tape here. I think this would sound better. See why we always have to go back to reread. Had. Today we use windmills to produce electricity, but back then windmills had a lot of different purposes in Holland. Yeah, I like that a lot better. The sails catch the wind to move the gears inside and chop the grain into food. Did we hear about that in the passage? Yep, check it off. If the land was flooded, the windmill could pump water away and turn land into places people could live. Did we read about that in the passage? Yep, check it off. Windmills tear up wood into tiny pieces that can then make paper. Did we read about that in the passage? Yep, check it off. And now it all makes sense, doesn't it? It all makes sense. So that is an example of a summary. Now, you don't get better just by watching Miss McCullough do it. No, you need to actually have time to practice this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do one more passage together. Okay? We'll do this one together, and then we'll figure out how we're going to turn it into sentences. And I want you to help me. Okay, so here's our next passage. You start reading it just for a minute. Okay, you see what it's about? Yeah, the Chinese New Year. Okay, so let's read it paragraph by paragraph and see what details your thinking voice tells you would be important. The Chinese New Year is on a different date than the one celebrated in the United States. It is in February and is a big celebration for people in China and Chinese people around the world. One part of the day includes a parade or dance that has a dragon. Okay, so guys, what details did your thinking voice tell you would be important? Yeah, the Chinese New Year, that's what we're talking about. And when is it? February. Yeah, that's really different, isn't it? Chinese New Year, I'm going to put that. I know what that means. In February, I'm just going to abbreviate that because these are just notes to myself. And it's a really big celebration. So let's big celebration. Okay. All right. So now, what does it have? What other details did your thinking voice pick up on? Yeah, they have a parade. And what's in that parade? A dragon. Okay. Or a dance that has a dragon, but something with a dragon. All right. And so what is this? Let's give it a label. It's a Chinese celebration. It's a pretty good label here. Okay. So now let's look at the next paragraph. I'm going to grab a new oval. Let's read it together. The dragon is considered to be good luck. It is also a symbol of the culture of China. People think of it bringing good things like wisdom and health. During the parade or dance, it was good if the dragon was involved for a long time. The longer the dragon danced, the more luck it would give to people. Okay, so what's your thinking voice saying to you? What's important here? The dragon. Yeah, I agree. The dragon. And what did they believe about the dragon? That it was good luck. And what kinds of things would it bring them? Yeah, wisdom, health. Everybody needs to be healthy in this day and age, right? Okay, and so what did they do with the dragon during the parade? It would dance. So the longer, all right, dance with dragon. Something like that. I don't know if you like that or not. You can always change it. The longer dragon danced, what? The more luck. Okay, so we've got a few details from that paragraph. Oh, we forgot our label. What's the important part about this paragraph? I agree. It's all about the dragon. What the dragon brings, what the dragon does. It's all about the dragon. I think that's a great label. Okay, so now let's look at the last paragraph. I've got my oval ready. To make the dragon dance, it takes several dancers. The dragon is made of brightly colored material with poles attached. The dancers have to lift and move the poles with just the right timing to make it look like the dragon is alive. The dancers move the poles and walk forward to make the dragon move down the parade route. Okay, so we're still talking about the dragon, but what details did we learn in this passage that your thinking voice is saying to you might be important about the dragon? Yeah, how do they make that dragon dance? With poles. Okay, so they use poles to make dragon move. Okay, good. And how do they do that with the poles? Okay, so they do what? They lift the poles. They do anything else? And walk forward. Okay, let's put that down. All right. We're good. Oh, you're right. We forgot the label. What do you think? What's that? This is all about the dragon, but we already had that as a label. How it dances. Okay, so dancing with the dragon. Something like that. That could be a label. You know what? I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Usually, the label is often found in the first sentence. Yeah. Let's look at the first sentence again. The Chinese New Year is on a different date than the one celebrated in the United States. It's a Chinese celebration. We came up with that. Yeah, it's usually something in the first sentence that really stands out. Let's look at the next paragraph. The dragon is considered to be good luck. We had dragon. We could have said something about it being good luck. And then the last one, to make the dragon dance, it takes several dancers. And what do we have? Dancing with the dragon. Yeah, the label is usually in the first sentence of the paragraph. You see, writers give you all this information that you need. You just have to realize each paragraph in an article like this is a new group. It's a new category. And that's how you know when to switch groups, is because you've gone to a new paragraph. Okay, I think this will be a piece of cake for you. You guys are getting so good at this. I'll remove our windmill passage and you help me, okay? I'll be the writer, but you know, all I'm going to do is write the words. You guys are going to do the thinking. So let's look at it. Chinese celebration. Chinese New Year's in February. It's a big celebration. It's a parade with a dragon. What do you think? The Chinese New Year is a big celebration in February. You think that we just need one sentence? Yeah, I think so too. The Chinese New Year is, what did we say it was going to be? Is a big celebration in when? February. That's right. Okay, that's it. See how you guys are doing all the thinking? Okay, so here's the next part. Dragon. Dragon, good luck, wisdom, health. Dance with dragon. The longer the dragon dance, the more luck. What do we want to say? So maybe something about the people think, or the dragon is. The dragon is a symbol. Oh, I like that word. The dragon is a symbol of good luck and brings wisdom and health. Oh, perfect. I love that word. Okay. The dragon is a symbol of good luck, bringing, what were those words again? Bringing what? What should I write? Wisdom and health. Okay. Wisdom and health. Period. All right. We summarized. We did one sentence. Okay, let's go to the last one. Dancing with dragons. The dragon. Poles make the dragon move. They lift the poles and walk forward. Yeah, something about the poles, don't you think? Okay, so people do what? People use poles to make the dragon look like it's dancing. That? Okay. People use poles to make the dragon look like it's dancing. Where does this dragon come up all the time? In a parade. Yeah. Should we put that down? Yeah, I don't think we mentioned the parade. I think that's important. I think you're right. Look like it's dancing in the parade. All right. People, we're doing it. We took a few details from each of those paragraphs and we turned them into a sentence. And then when we combine the sentences together, that's when we make our summary. Just like that. Okay, let's reread and make sure we've got what we need. The Chinese New Year is a big celebration in February. Did we learn that in the article? Yep. Check it off. Do it with me. Check it off. All right. The dragon is a symbol of good luck, bringing wisdom and health. Did it say that in the article? Yep. Check it off. Good. People use poles to make the dragon look like it's dancing in the parade. Did we read that? Check it off. Good. So guys, you did it. You made a summary. See, it's a piece of cake. You read, you collect the details, then you look at those details, you combine them together, make a sentence. Then you go on to the next oval. And when you put those sentences together, it's a summary. So I have another article for you guys to read. Now, don't be like, oh, it's so long. No, listen, it's about sea turtles. You'll love it. And I also want to tell you that because you're in second and third grade and we're all kind of at different needs in our reading, I also recorded myself reading it to you. So if you want to listen to me read it to you and you follow along, then you can click on that link and you can listen to that, okay? But otherwise, if you're like, I think I can read most of the words in this, Miss McCullough, just read it yourself, okay? So read it yourself, but you want to collect details. So I'll let you decide. I'm going to give you both. I'm going to give you the big dissected oval, but I'm also going to give you just the dissected web. And if you think your handwriting could actually fit some of those words and phrases in these tiny sections, then go for it, okay? So you could print it out and use it like this, or you can make your own. It's just ovals, just round and then drawing lines. You could just make your own. It's not a problem. But I also have some Google Slides for you. Yeah, here's the one oval that I gave you last time, but now look at this. You could type it in and have all of them right there. So just remember, you're going to like type in your notes and see if you can give it a label. We don't quite have a label listed here, but maybe you can come up with a label for each one of those categories, okay? So there is a label listed here. We probably need to add some labels on this one for you. Alrighty, guys, that would be your assignment. If you were in my class, you would read about sea turtles or listen to it. You would complete the dissected web or oval. Then you would take those notes and type it or write it into a paragraph and see if you have about a 4-sentence paragraph, because then you would have a summary. That's what you would do if you were in Mrs. McCullough's class, but your teacher might have an even better idea.